شو بلش؟
شو يبقى؟
It's on.
نبلش نقرأ مع بعض.
It's on sale.
فقه.
Yeah, it's on. بسم الله. أحسن. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وصلى الله وسلم على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. Mu'minin and mu'minat, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept your efforts on this Friday and the end of Friday, the last hour of Friday, those who got to invoke and call upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's one of the most important hours, and accept the efforts of those who came to make it for congregation and for education. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept from all of us and grant us all more knowledge, inshallah. As we approach the holy month of Ramadan, it is very important for us to revisit our basically refresh our memories and revisit the Islamic law in regards to fasting, siyam. So we are making sure that our fasting is more correct in the jurisprudential sense, from the fiqhi perspective, and from the Islamic law perspective. And also it's important that we also reflect on the spirituality of fasting and gaining the taqwa which is intended by fasting. Inshallah, that aspect we will discuss after the Islamic law session in tonight's discussion on preparation for the holy month of Ramadan. So in terms of Islamic law, to be very simple and clear, refresh our memories, fasting is wajib upon any believer who is capable of fasting physically and has reached the age of puberty. Women are exempt from it during their monthly periods, and yet they have to make them up, and they should make it up before the next the next month of Ramadan arrives. If they don't, there is a fidya payable. If you have not made up last year's fasting or make up fast, then there is a fidya to be paid. There is still time for those who have a few days left. There's still a little bit of time. If not, they have to pay a fidya, and paying the fidya does not nullify the making up of the fasting. I hope that's clear. They still have to make up the days after the month of Ramadan. However, because they did not make it up before 1 year is over, before the next month arrives, next month of Ramadan arrives, they have to pay the fidya. And fidya equates to feeding one person. I believe it's 750 grams, or would that be accurate to say about 1.5 pounds? Is that roughly roughly the conversion, or maybe 1.6 or something. So equal to say about $5 if you are paying here. You can feed anywhere in the world, and the equivalent of that amount is to feed one person. So it could be less if you're spending it some places in the East or in Africa, and it would be perhaps around the $5 for each day if you are paying it here to feed people who are needy here. Fidya has to be given to the poor of the believers, of the mu'mineen. So that's one general rule. Fasting begins from the beginning of the month of Ramadan, when the moon is sighted in the evening. The next day is the month of Ramadan, and unless we cannot sight it, so we complete 30 days of the current month, the month of Sha'ban, and then we go ahead and start the month of Ramadan. If we can be certain that the moon could be sighted without seeing it because of an obstacle like clouds, but we were certain that we could have seen it otherwise, that also suffices. So if we are sure, for example, on I believe this year it's going to be visible on Monday night. Is that correct? Monday night is when we can see it, and Monday night. It's almost impossible for Sunday night. Yeah, I would say, yeah, it's most likely Monday night. But let's say it was cloudy on Monday night and we could not see it. If we are certain that we could have seen it through any means, then we can start obviously the next day, which is the Tuesday. So either we see it, or we get witnesses of people who say that they've seen it, or we are certain. If knowledge and science, if science and technology gives us certainty, that also suffices. There is it's very, very important to keep that in mind, the fact that there are hadith that say don't listen to astronomists. There are hadith about that. But that's not suggesting that we cannot go with certainty through the help of astronomers. By the astronomers telling us that the moon has moved from the darkness, or basically the one line with the sun and the earth, which is referred to as muhaq, or basically where it's not visible at all. By them telling us that it moved from there, which is referred to scientifically as the birth of the moon, that is not what we would listen to. But if they can give us certainty that in our area we could see it, then that suffices. And experience also is important. So that's a little bit about when we start the month. It's important that we have the intention for fasting the month of Ramadan, and that suffices. Do I have to renew my intention every Fajr and for that day, or every evening before the next day? If you make, we call it ijmali, if we make the intention from the beginning of the month that this month of Ramadan I'm fasting, that suffices. And every day, obviously, we wake up knowing whether we wake up before Fajr or we sleep, if somebody sleeps through it the night before, they know that they are fasting, so that suffices. It doesn't have to be consciously renewed every day. So that's in terms of the niyyah of Siyam. And Siyam starts from the break of dawn, from Fajr, and it continues until sunset or Maghrib. The clear Maghrib is when we can no longer see the reflection of the sun in the east. So we are certain that the sun has set when we don't see its reflection in the east. It's referred to as al-humra al-mashriqiyya, the redness in the east. Once that disappears, we're clear that it's sunset, and that's when we break our fast. And this is basically the length of it. Fajr is one. There is no two Fajr. There's no imsak and Fajr, by the way. Imsak in terms of Islamic law does not exist. Okay? In Islamic law we have Fajr and we have Maghrib. That is what we have. We don't have Imsak. Do we have to stop eating before Fajr? If you want to practice precaution, you can. Do I have to? Do we have to? No, you don't. You eat and drink. You can eat and drink until the time that it's Fajr and you can get up and pray. I mean, obviously you don't want to have food in your mouth when it's already Fajr, so you have to clean your mouth prior to that, but you can eat and drink until Fajr. You don't have to have an imsak. If you wish to do that, it's your choice, but you don't have to do that. Up to this, any questions? Do you have online questions or anything?
There is no
nothing online. Okay.
online questions, but any questions here?
Any questions here? Yes.
So, how you said when it comes to the month of Ramadan, we should
Yeah.
be before the month of Ramadan to fast. So let's say, for example, someone were to fast for a month outside of Ramadan, right? Just
Yeah.
for, piety.
Yeah.
Would that apply as well, or would they need to redo their?
No, so the niyyah starts from the night of the first day of the month of Ramadan. When you see the moon, we know it's the day of the next day, or if we continue the 30 days. From then, you make your intention that I'm going to fast this month of Ramadan. Because before then, you cannot make that intention. We may not live until then. Yeah, so you can, for mustahab fast, you make that intention for every day on that day. Okay. For qada fast, same thing. You make that intention on that day. Qada fast, for example, you can make the intention any time before dhuhr. Okay, qada. If you if you hadn't eaten anything and it's almost dhuhr time, you think, okay, you know what? I'm gonna fast today, and I'm gonna count it as a makeup for a day that I have missed in the past. You can do that. For mustahab fast, you can do that all the way until Maghrib. I haven't had anything to eat. It's already 4, 5 o'clock. Iftar is at 6 o'clock. I'm gonna fast today. Okay, I make the intention for siyam. It counts as mustahab. For a month of Ramadan fasting, it has to be done before Fajr. However, an intention before the first day or on the first evening, or before Fajr on the first day, from sunset or from Maghrib of the first day, an intention then that I'm going to fast this month suffices. You don't have to make. Some people, I want to make this point, it's very important actually. There is a concept, we call it waswas. Waswas is perhaps translated as OCD, but it's more than OCD. It's actually waswas from shaitan. It's the whispering of shaitan. Some people, they have so much doubt and so much focus on what we call the qushur, the outer layers, that it makes them miss the core of ibadah, the real meaning and the essence of ibadah. Okay, so some, for example, they get so stuck on, is my wudu correct? Have I, washed this area? It's important to learn the law and apply it. I'm not saying it's not important, but it's not okay to continuously doubt yourself and keep on thinking, did I do this? That is the gate for shaitan. Al-waswas min ash-shaytan. And shaitan uses that to destroy our acts of worship, the essence of worship. Wudu itself has a lot of spiritual meanings. That's the core of wudu. The physical aspect of wudu is the washing of the face, hands, the wiping over the head and wiping over the feet. That's the physical aspect of wudu. Wudu is more than that. And some get stuck in the physical side that they don't even get to enjoy the ibadah or understand the act of worship. So it's very important that we keep that in mind. So what I'm trying to say is intention for the month of Ramadan. I've had people asking me, I forgot to make the intention, then I was doubtful because of this and that. Does that day count? Have I made masiyah? Do I have to make it up? Do I have to pay kafara? They are so stuck on that, the intention part, and whether or not that fasting counts, that they miss the essence of fasting. Okay, so that's important to keep in mind. Evening of the first day of the month of Ramadan, my niyyah is I'm going to fast this holy month of Ramadan. End of story. Every night I sleep with that intention in mind. If God forbid one does not wake up before Fajr to renew their intention, it's okay. Okay, so if they wake up, that's their intention. They know what they're doing. Important point. Do we need to utter intention verbally? We don't. Okay, it's a state of mind and the heart. I know that that's what I'm going to be doing. That suffices. Okay. Any other questions?
Thank you. The question is, if somebody is, in other words, he's sick, the entire month of Ramadan and also the following year.
Throughout the year.
He hasn't been able to make it.
Mm-hmm.
So what is the, how much he has to pay for each day?
Okay, so if they cannot fast at all, if they cannot make it up, then they pay the fidya, which again I said, if you're spending it here, it would be roughly around $5 per day. Unless people want to feed in Iran, Iraq, Lebanon, Africa, whatever, then it depends on the rates for purchasing that amount of flour or rice.
1 kilo of bread or
750 grams of flour or rice, the average flour or rice that you feed your family.
and that's for each day.
For each day, yes.
30 would be paying for the whole month that they have this.
Yeah, if somebody missed the whole thing and they did not make it up, that's what they pay. Ahsanallah. So that's in very brief. Yes, any other question? Okay.
Any questions from the ladies?
No.
No.
Can you elaborate then in Saf, what does it imply?
Okay, so some calendars, at some point, some calendars when they came to print, they decided they're going to practice ihtiyat, precaution. Because they were typically printing the calendars for a broader region. Okay, so for instance, somebody might come in Orlando and print the calendar for Orlando. Okay, and in there they put Fajr. Okay, now Fajr in South Orlando, down by Kissimmee, versus Fajr in North Orlando, Sanford area, could be a few minutes apart, 1 or 2 minutes apart. Okay, so they came and said, okay, we're printing for a big city and we're printing these calendars and we're not sure actually that it's definitely that timing and so on. So they took 10 minutes before, I've seen them 10 minutes before the time of Fajr, they say stop eating then. Okay, or what they might do is they put the Fajr 5 minutes later and they put the Imsak 5 minutes before the time that they determined. So based on their determination, let's say it's 6 o'clock, so they make Fajr 6:05 and they make Imsak 5:55. Okay, to cover that issue. Do we have to follow that? If you know the Fajr in your area, which we have these calendars on our phones, on our apps, websites, if you know the Fajr in your area, it suffices. If you're comfortable that this is the time of Fajr, and that's when you normally pray your Fajr, then you don't need to have Imsak before that. You can eat until that moment. Or, if you want to go and brush your teeth before, or, clear your mouth before, you do that before Fajr and you're good to go.
Thank you. Follow up on the previous question. They were saying that they can't just give the money, they have to actually feed them.
Okay, it has to be for food. Okay, so if they give the money to an organization, it has to be specified that this is fidya to feed the poor. So they can give money to an organization, but they have to specify that this is for feeding.
They can't just put the money in this...
No, in a charity box, no. Unless you have a specific fund or box for fidya and kafara, Also, kafara is where they have to, if they intentionally break their fast and they had no excuse, they were not pardoned, then they have to feed 60 people. As well as make up the fast. So if you have an account for kafarat and for fidya, that's okay. If not, then they have to specify when they're paying it, whoever they're paying it to, that this is for feeding.
60 people is for intentional, right?
For intentional, yes.
This is for
Fidya is just one. Yes, yes. But in terms of what it's spent on, it's the same. Okay, just to clear. Yes.
So for the intentional breaking of the fast, let's say you become sick in the middle of the day, you need to take medicine for a care. Does that count as intentional?
It is intentional in that case, but it's what we're referring to is when it's not pardoned.
Okay.
Okay, so intentional and not excused. So one who is sick is excused if they cannot fast. Even if somebody is not sick, but somehow by the middle of the day they got dehydrated, they cannot continue anymore, or towards the end of the day they cannot. Okay, they're excused to eat and drink enough to just keep them going, and they make up that day. They just make it up. There's no kafara for that day. So for instance, some people ask, what about construction workers? They go and work in the heat, especially in some parts of the world, or Florida or some other parts where you're sweating so much, they could get dehydrated. If they can if they can change their schedules, if they can take a break or whatever, they do that. But if not, if that's their only livelihood and they cannot skip work, then they still have to make the intention. It doesn't excuse them from fasting altogether. They make the intention, they start the day, and then if they cannot continue, if they get dehydrated and they cannot continue, then that's when they eat and drink as much as they need to, and then they make it up. Okay?
Intentional is like the person actually disobeying Allah's order and doesn't want to fast. That is not just 16 days, there's also he has to fast for 60 days too, right?
Okay, it's either or. Okay, so there's another one which is combination of the kafarat if they intentionally, without being pardoned, break their fast on what is haram. If they eat something that's haram, then they have to combine the fasting of 60 days as well as the feeding of 60 people.
And if you don't mind elaborate, that 60 days cannot be like one day here, one day there.
Ahsan. So fasting of 60 days, Quran says shahrayni, 2 months. So our scholars, they say if you fast 31 days consecutive, it counts as 2 consecutive months, and then you can break the rest of them. But if you want to do it based on precaution, it should be 2 months, 60 days consecutive. Okay, but some scholars, they say if you fast 31 days, that counts as 2 months together, and then you can break up the second one, the 29 days remaining. But yeah, it's 2 consecutive shahrayni mutatabi'ain. That's the clear law from the Holy Quran.
The remaining 29 days they can take every other day or something.
Yeah. If they are not practicing precaution and continuing, that's when they can break up the other 29 days. But 31 have to be consecutive. So, ahsant.
Any other questions?
Inshallah, we'll cover next week. We'll try and cover some more of the laws regarding fasting. What are the things that break one's fast besides food and drink, and other laws and questions, inshallah. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu wa sallam ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa alihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.